You're looking for really supportive, really stiff or small footholds on technical terrain or crack climbing, this would be our best offering for either of those, any of those disciplines for sure. Cool, so what we're looking at now is a updated version of the Vapor Lace-Up. So the Vapor Lace-Up is in our specialized category. It really excels at vertical, really technical, small footholds, and also crack climbing. I would say the reason for that is it's our most supportive and stiffest shoe probably in the entire line, in any category that we make. A couple subtle updates that really make a big difference in the climbing performance. So one of the main changes that we made was on the inside of the shoe. The prior version of the Vapor Lace-Up had a synthetic footbed. This new version is full leather footbed. It's going to be a little bit more durability over time, a little bit more stiffness, a little bit more supportive, and ultimately the main goal with that was more comfort. It gives you that really good custom molded fit depending on your foot shape and characteristics. So for a shoe like this that's made to climb on really small holds for a really long periods of time, you really want a lot of support and comfort, so that leather footbed really helped accomplish that. One subtle update, but which is really beneficial, is a little bit more padding and breathability in the tongue and a better pull tab, so it's easier to pull on and off. Again, just small little differences and details. One thing that we did update to our D2 toe patch. So D2 stands for dual density. This is a proprietary technology that SCARPA has exclusively for the next couple seasons, which we have figured out a way to incorporate two different types of rubber into one piece. So the black rubber on the outside of the shoe is a stiffer rubber, so it frames the outside of the shoe, so more precision, less deformation of the shoe when you're standing on a small hold. And then we use the softer rubber on top for more actually comfort over your toes, because it's softer, a little bit more accommodating to various different shapes of feet inside of the shoe. But also sticky rubber where you want it the most, especially if you're toe hooking, or in particular with this shoe, if you have it inside of a crack, it's going to provide a tremendous amount of friction directly on the inside of the crack while you're torquing it in there for sure. We made it a little bit smaller, it's a little bit less bulky, better precision in the original version of D2 patch that we came out with. I would say the only type of climbing you might not want to use this shoe for is really steep bouldering or sport climbing, because it's not necessarily super sensitive underneath, and being that it has a full-length outsole, full-length midsole, it's pretty stiff. It's kind of hard to flex this thing. So it is more for standing on smaller holds as opposed to trying to grab at stuff on steeper terrain. We incorporate our PAF heel, which stands for pressure absorbing fit, which alleviates a ton of discomfort and pressure directly off of the Achilles tendon. Technical terrain, whether it's single pitch, multi-pitch, multi-day, kind of excursions, Vapor is still going to be the best option for any of that kind of climbing. This uses a full-length Vibram XS Edge outsole. We have a full-length midsole underneath that outsole, mirrored. So again, full toe to heel support for standing on really small holds for a really long time, or if you're torquing this in a crack, it's really torsionally stiff. So this is coming out in spring 22, this updated version, and it's going to retail at $185. And visually, you can actually tell if you just simply flip the two shoes over. So the Vapor is going to have a full-length outsole and midsole, and it's going to have the XS Edge rubber, so way more supportive, way stiffer, and a lot of support from underneath. Whereas you can see the Velcro version, it is not a full-length outsole. It's 2/3, but it is split, so that's going to offer more sensitivity underneath the arch and also more ability to actually flex the shoe. So this is going to be more sensitive, a little bit more supple, and a little bit more, I would say, forgiving in steep terrain than the lace-up would be, because that thing doesn't want to flex at all, where this can actually flex and have a little bit more sensitivity underneath. So if you're more concerned about, sport climbing and bouldering along with trad climbing, as opposed to trad climbing, big wall, and crack climbing, like you would with the lace-up version, this would be, again, the sportier version of the two shoes. The other difference too is in the lace version on both men's and women's, we use the edge rubber on both of them. And on the Vapor V, we use the edge rubber on the men's version and the grip rubber on the women's version, just because it might be women's shoes doesn't mean they're for women. It could be for anyone that has a lower volume foot. They're lighter weight, smaller person, so it's easier for them to bend and manipulate the shoe. The Maestro Mid would be for the person that wants really a high amount of comfort and protection, because mid top a little bit more protection over the ankles, especially if you're climbing in off with cracks, wider cracks where you might be really abrading your ankles when you're shoving your whole foot inside of those things. What you lose with that is a little bit of precision and performance, right? So I think that if you're a climber that wants the same amount of support that a Maestro Mid could offer for multi-pitch routes, maybe crack climbing, but they want it to be a little bit more precise, especially when you get on more difficult like face climbs, more technical climbing. Because of the shape, because of the last of the Vapor, it is a more precision, more performance shoe than the Maestro Mid, which is more about comfort and protection over long stretches of rock, whereas this is equally as supportive as a Maestro, maybe not as much as protection, but it's going to climb a lot better, especially on technical terrain than a Maestro Mid would. I would say that this is much more supportive and stiff than a Quantic. So again, if you're looking for really specializing more on like vertical or slabs or big wall where you just need a lot of support, or crack climbing, this is going to be better at those type of climbing than the Quantic. The Quantic is going to be a little bit more comfortable, but it's probably not going to perform as high level as this is. The way that this is constructed with that really burly midsole, with this full length outsole, is that it'll break in a little bit up here, but it's never going to break in down here. So if you're expecting it to at some point get a little bit softer, maybe become a little bit better at climbing steeper terrain and being able to grab at stuff with your feet, never going to happen, because the intention is for that to not happen. We want it to always have a really a high amount of support from front to back, no matter if it's brand new out of the box or a couple seasons old. And the difference between that and all of our other beginner shoes is those will soften up and be less supportive over time. If you do have this model, which is the only model that we have the D2 toe patch on, if and when you do get to a point where you want to get that resoled, again, just reference our website of our preferred resolers, because they all have access to this particular toe patch, because you can't just make this on your own. This needs to be supplied by us to that resoler to make sure that not only can they do the job correctly, but also make sure that it's right back to normal with the same technology that they brought it in with. They leave with that same technology. So easily done, but just make sure that you do reference our website to make sure it's a preferred resoler, that SCARPA is certified as such, and that's a guarantee that they're going to be able to resole this technology or any of the other technology that we have in any of our other climbing shoes.